Are you thinking about painting your kitchen cabinets, but you're not sure if you should do it? You're wondering, how's it gonna look? Is it gonna look dirty and gross? Will it clean up easy? How will it hold up? Will it be durable? If that sounds like you, then stick around because this video is perfect for you. Hey guys, Steve with Braun's Painting Network here, and I am on site at my own kitchen. If you're thinking about painting your own kitchen cabinets, I wanted to take this opportunity to walk you through my own kitchen where we painted our kitchen cabinets about 8 months ago and let you see how it looks, how it cleans up, the durability of it, and ultimately help you decide if painting the kitchen cabinets is right for you. In my opinion, painting kitchen cabinets can be one of the highest value, biggest impact home improvement projects somebody can undertake. That being said, it's really important to set good expectations and make sure you really understand what you're getting into, but ultimately, what are the pros and cons of painting your kitchen cabinets, and what can you expect as far as finish quality and results and long-term maintenance. Trust me, it can definitely go wrong if you didn't take the time to learn some best practices and good application methods. If you're not using good applicators or good products, you can definitely make a mess of a kitchen cabinet project. So before you undertake it, definitely make sure you know what you're doing. So here's how our kitchen cabinets look now. This was painted with Benjamin Moore Advanced Paint in the satin finish. We just used the standard white color PM2 from Benjamin Moore. And I'll tell you what, how does it look? For me and my wife, it's an absolute game changer for our kitchen. And we've, over the years, had unbelievably positive results with clients and have made huge impressions on people and bringing a lot of value to people as far as how big of a game changer this project is for kitchens. If you are looking to brighten up your kitchen, if you want to modernize a kitchen that seems outdated and you want it to be done at a reasonable cost, there are few projects in the residential painting world that will yield as much value and impact as a kitchen cabinet painting project. If you're wondering what surfaces we painted, we will typically paint both sides of the doors, the inside and the outside. Very rarely would we paint inside the cabinet body and the shelves, just because it's not a great value. They're almost always out of view, except for when you have the door open. There's a lot of things inside the cabinets, and it's just a lot of extra effort and money if you were to do that. So we would typically paint up to these lips right here and stop. We don't paint the back side of this. We don't do the shelves. We definitely always do both sides of the doors because it would just look super awkward to swing that open when you have it open and in the sea. It just makes it look unfinished. We also paint the undersides of the cabinets like you see there. If you've been watching our videos and not subscribing, don't do me like that. Subscribe today. Sometimes these are permanently fixed to the drawer assembly itself. Most cases there are screws where you can take that off. So we will remove the whole drawer face like you see here, just like the doors, spray both sides. So this complete back has been painted, but we'll leave the drawer assembly itself alone. Generally speaking, things like dishwashers that have the plumbing hookups, or things like the stove that is a gas stove hookup, has a lot of slack, so it is pretty easy to pull this stove out and paint on the sides, but it is so tight that you're never going to see in there. So it's totally up to you. Now, our fridge install is a little weird in our kitchen, but more times than not, they are integrated into the kitchen cabinets. And there are oftentimes more visible gaps on the side of the fridge and what you can see behind here, like if this was natural wood. So more times than not, we are almost always pulling the fridge out and painting the surrounding surfaces around the fridge so that everything matches well. An important consideration that people typically don't think of before they paint their kitchen cabinets is when you go from a finished wood look to a uniform solid color like a bright white, there are a lot of gaps and sight lines that now become a lot more obvious when everything's solid color. When you have those finished wood cabinets, there's so much grain variation and color variation that your eyes don't even really pick up on the fact that there are a lot of gaps and cracks on the cabinet body. Let me give you an example. You have intersections of the cabinet boxes like these. You might have intersections of trim to the cabinet body. You have intersections of the cabinet body to the wall. And I promise you there's going to be gaps and shadow lines once you paint the cabinets uniformly in one solid color. They're going to be more visible and a little unsightly, probably in most people's opinions. So the easy answer for that is that you use caulk during the process to fill those gaps. We will always want to prime first, and then before we put on finish paints, caulk any of those gaps that we would need to, and it'll just make a much better aesthetic difference for you. This is a perfect time to talk about the gaps that may be visible on your panels between your stiles and rails. In these panels on the doors, you can get gaps. And when I talk about gaps, I'm referring to something like that. So depending on your personal taste, that may or may not be aesthetically a problem for you. The thing is we don't recommend just blindly caulking all of these gaps, because these panels are referred to as floating panels. Here's the back side of it. And they are designed to have a little bit of movement with temperature changes and humidity changes so that it holds up for the long term and you don't get any crackling wood. Now, if you blindly caulk all these in place, you may be setting yourself up for some movement of the panel and some crackling in the caulk that just needs a lot more maintenance than you might otherwise need. Now, what I say, depending on certain doors, may have different sight lines and gaps may be bigger than others. And for a lot of doors, it may not be a problem at all. There might be certain doors where a gap might be larger or it's in a highly visible area or sight line and you want to deal with it. So this would be an example of one that we're fine with. We just kind of leave that there. It doesn't really bother us. We have one over here near the oven that was driving my wife crazy. And I just went ahead and I did fill that with acrylic latex caulk for her, so to just make that look aesthetically more appealing. Now, knowing that, hey, if it crackles down the road, I can very easily just re-caulk it again, touch up the cabinets, and it's not a big deal. So again, I wouldn't go through and caulk all of them, but you can do select ones if it's going to really make a difference for you. Something else to consider when you paint your cabinets is any doors that may be out of alignment or hardware that might be out of alignment will actually be a lot more noticeable once you paint it solid color for the same reasons we just talked about. Now you have uniformity in color and your eyes are now going to naturally go to where there's inconsistencies in sight lines or lines in the way that doors are lined up. Whereas before, when it was wood, you may have never noticed because, again, there's so much variation in color and wood grain. These doors are probably the best example of that here on my set of cabinets. If you really look into this, you can see this line here. You have maybe a 1/8 of an inch difference. Super minor stuff. I'm only pointing this out because I do this every day and I see that. My wife has still not picked up on that. Now, if she sees this video, she's going to probably go into an OCD cataclysmic event and I'll have to adjust that. But the good news is most cabinet hinges have pretty good adjustability to where you can move doors up and down. Worst case scenario, you might have to re-drill a couple of things to adjust doors. But this is super subtle. I'm telling you, it won't be shocking at all sometimes to see cabinet doors that were originally hung maybe a 1/2 inch offset when doors are next to each other like this, and people have never noticed in all the years they lived in a home. Another thing is you definitely want to factor in how painting your cabinets is going to impact your situation with hardware. We changed out our hardware. We reused the same holes, but we just got new hardware with a nice black finish to really contrast well with the white. You also want to think about your hinges. A good percentage of cabinets have hinges that are visible from the outside of the cabinet body. So you're going to want the finish on these to match or at least be very close to any changes you make in your handle or pull hardware. So something to consider, we actually used the original hinges and just spray painted them with a black matte spray finish, an aerosol spray. And then we bought, these were factory finished new pulls that we bought. A consideration on your hardware, when you have a door like this that has the oak grain, it can be difficult to make changes in the holes. Say you wanted to go with a bigger pull and we wanted to have a pull where the hole was needed to be drilled up here. Well, now we need to fill that. You can probably make that work, but just a word to the wise is when you fill that hole, you're gonna have a very smooth repair there that can then be very visible and too smooth almost when you have textured surroundings. The same thing would apply if you wanted to get rid of a pull like this that had two holes and you wanted to just have like one knob, for example. Now you have a highly visible hole that needs to be filled. And while you can do that, it may be very difficult to make it 100% disappear when you have all the texture surrounding a very smooth hole fill. All right, so as a professional painting company, when we do these projects, we'll always take off the doors and the drawer faces, and we'll take them off, we'll take them to our shop, we'll prep them, we'll prime them, we'll paint them, and we'll spray apply all the products in our spray booth where we got a really nice ventilated, controlled system and spray booth. Now, the cabinet body that is attached to the wall, we'll give our clients the option for us to either dress out their kitchen and do all the advanced protection work that's necessary for us to spray the cabinet body in the home. Now, what a lot of our customers will elect to do is that we will set up some protection, like the countertops and appliances, and we will brush and roll the cabinet body. And when we do that, that means it's a lot less of an invasive project for the customer, and they are able to use their kitchen during the course of our work days as they need. They're able to utilize their kitchen during the evening hours while the project is ongoing. Okay, so obviously, especially from any kind of distance, huge impact, really brightens and freshens up and modernizes the kitchen. Nice new black hardware to contrast the white. But, even when you go in, if you want to know, like, hey, what does it look like when you're on top of the cabinets? Let's talk about that, because I want to make sure you have good expectations on grain visibility. If you have a wood type, like oak most specifically, and it has a lot of grain texture like that, simply just painting your cabinets, even when you properly prepare and paint it, is not going to eliminate that grain texture. And in my opinion, and for my money, that is not a bad thing. I love the visibility of the grain texture. However, you wouldn't be alone and you wouldn't be crazy if in your mind you thought that the painting would cover that up or fill that in, or perhaps you would rather not see the wood grain. Certainly understandable. Now, the further you get away, it's, the more difficult it is to see that or discern it. But I promise you, if you have grain texture like that, you would need to expect to continue to see that here at the microwave. You can see it there, especially when you get at side angles. You're going to see that grain. Now, I love it. I think it looks beautiful. When we do projects for people, we set that expectation. We talk about it. I've never had a client that had a problem with that. Now, without a question, you can take additional steps to spend the time and the resources and the money to fill in all this grain texture with a wood filler. Adds a lot more time and process substantially to a project like this. That's why we typically don't do it, because I just don't believe that it's a great value, and we've had really good results doing it the way that we do that. However, you can certainly do research online and find products and strategies that you can use to fill all that in if you don't like that. All right, so with the grain texture aside, let's take a closer look at the finish quality as it relates to the application of the paint, and we're able to get really good results with our methods. Obviously, you have the texture of the grain, but we have pretty minimal application texture here. All of these doors were taken off and taken to our shop where we spray applied them on both sides of the doors. We got good finish quality with the brush and roller as well. As long as you're using quality applicators and you have good processes, you're using quality self-leveling paints, you can get a great finish with brush and roll just like you can with a sprayer finish. Now there is a little bit of difference in finish quality between spray and the roller. Technically you get just a little bit more of that orange peel or stippled type texture when you roll it versus spray, which is a little bit, super fine. This was a fine finish spray tip. So, we're getting really good finish quality, but it's very indiscernible with the naked eye under normal lighting conditions for somebody to even notice the difference. So don't be afraid if you are a DIYer and you don't have spray equipment or experience with spray equipment. Don't feel like you can't paint your kitchen cabinets yourself because you're going to brush and roll. You just need to make sure you're using good products, good applicators, and you learn good processes and methods when you're painting so that you get really good results like this. One thought about the finish quality on your cabinets is that the more light scrutiny that you have overhead, the more likely it is to show any imperfections in your finish quality. Now, I feel really good about the fine finish spray tip that we use so that even if we were to have some overhead light, I feel like we're still demonstrating really good finish quality. I will say that if you have like bucket lights up on your ceiling, definitely be prepared that you are going to have way more scrutiny on how your paint finish quality looks, so that if you were just going to try to brush apply paint or you were using a roller, which you can do, rollers will definitely show more stippling or orange peel texture, which under normal lighting conditions will still look great. It's just be aware that, hey, it might not look as good if you got a spotlight shining on it. The other thing is that when you roll, if you're not using a good quality roller or even good quality ones, when you initially are using them, they will have a little bit of lint shedding on the surface, and you might not even be able to see it if it was pulled away from light, but then you put a spotlight on it and it's like, oh my God, look at all that lint that is shed on your finish. That's why it can be a really huge advantage to spray apply on your doors. But I wouldn't be scared of roll applying on doors. Just be aware of it and understand what your lighting conditions are. One concern you might have about painting your kitchen cabinets is it going to be very dirty and show every little piece of dirt and food stain? And I will say is no, not really. Now, there is some truth to the fact that more things will show on painted cabinets than if you had a stained and varnished set of wood cabinets. Again, why? Because you have all of that darker color variation, grain variation, and it's just harder to pick up imperfections or dirt, grime, grease on that surface than if it is a solid backdrop or solid color painted set of kitchen cabinets. When you're standing at any sort of reasonable distance, you are not noticing any substantial dirt or anything like that. But hey, if we want to take a closer look, especially right near where we cook our meals in our stove, you get a little, now you're starting to see, okay, there's a little bit of dirt and dust in there. This is probably the worst area right here. And yeah, if my wife sees this video, she's definitely not going to be happy with me for highlighting this, but something tells me she's probably going to be doing something better than watching my kitchen cabinet videos. You can see this is where what in the world is that? Like a dead fly maybe landed up there, but you can see, and again, I'm on top of this, so when you come walking into the kitchen, it's not like this is even that visible, but this goes to show you when you're on top of it, you definitely have some visible dirt and grime up there. On this side, definitely not as bad. because that's not where we're doing the cooking. Very little. Now here's the good news. How well do these paint finishes clean up? They clean up really well. This is just a damp rag. Look how nice that this cleans up. This is just a damp rag with water. I don't need any aggressive cleaners or abrasive scrubby pads. It is literally just wiping right off. Now you can use a rag with some, dish soap or some mild cleaner, and it just cleans up really well. Super nice, durable, easily cleaned finish. Let's get up here. Look at this. This is just gonna wipe right off. So don't be afraid. I mean, yeah, I will say if you don't love cleaning, then having painted cabinets, unless you want it to look kind of gross, will require more cleaning. Look how nice that's cleaning up though. Again, this is just a mildly damp rag. I don't have any detergents or anything like that. This is just wiping up so nice. So you can see how easy it is to clean up. Don't let that scare you into not painting your cabinets. Just be aware that, hey, you will have to clean your cabinets a little bit more often. Now, how well does it hold up? Is the paint going to come flaking off or peeling off? Is it going to have chips and dings all over it? Well, no, but kinda. Listen, anything that is a painted surface, it will at some point get dings, chips, scratches in it, okay? The more chaotic your home is, the more traffic, the more use, the more people, the more pets, the more likely you will have to expect some amount of dings or chips in your paint finish. Even when you're using great methods, great preparation, and you're using outstanding products, it is an inevitability that you will have some amount of that. The good news is that making minor amounts of touch-ups on a somewhat recurring basis isn't a big deal, and it can be very easily done. We'll give you a quick run through on how we handle touch-ups on our kitchen cabinets. One important note to make about durability is that when you first apply the primer and the finish paints, you want to wait about 2 weeks before you can expect that the primer and paint combination has fully cured and it's going to be as durable as it will be. And in those first 2 weeks after being painted, try to be a little bit more careful in your operation. Maybe try to keep kids and pets a little bit more at bay. And it's also a really good best practice before you rehang all the doors. Maybe let them dry on a rack for at least a few days, maybe even a week, before you go through the handling process of reinstalling all the doors. When you talk about just the day-to-day use and handling of these doors, they hold up really well. You're not going to be able to come up with your thumb and just scrape off paint. I mean, I'm putting a lot of pressure on that. We come to the back side. You're not just going to be able to come up here and scrape away paint with your thumbnail. I mean, it's very nice and durable. Now, if you're going to take a butter knife, you can absolutely do some damage. We'll go over here so I don't get in trouble with the wife. I know she won't be opening up this anytime soon. But like even this, like I can clank that, hit it. You know, it's not putting dent, it's not falling off. I mean, you can see we're putting quite a bit on here. Now, if I'm going to take this and I'm going to start digging into it, I promise you I can dig into it. Okay? But that's a lot. All right, so I just did that. That's me taking a knife to it. So yeah, it's not an impenetrable force, just like a car finish wouldn't be either. But you can definitely handle these, bang them around a little bit, and they hold up pretty well. But you also have to understand, I promise you, you are going to experience some level of dings and dents that will need to be touched up as the years go on. So we painted our cabinets about 8 months ago, and overall it is holding up really well. Even for a lighter traffic kitchen like we have, there are some common areas that you can expect to be trouble areas. We have this right here where we have our garbage can going in, and these will almost always take a beating. Now, it is on my to-do list to install a sliding bracket or slider assembly in here. We actually have it, just a matter of me getting to it, and that will solve this problem. But another thing that you can do if you don't want this to be a reoccurring thing is that once you touch it up, you can put a couple of layers of a water-based polyurethane like polyacrylic and a satin finish. It's a waterborne, crystal clear polyurethane that where it really doesn't alter the appearance of the underlying finish paint. It won't yellow over time like an oil-based poly would. And it basically gives extra layers of clear protection that even if that's being scratched and beat up, because it's clear, you can't really see it, and it's going to allow you to still see an intact white finish. Now, this isn't a huge concern because super low visibility. Now, it drives my wife crazy, and that's why if I wasn't going to be installing the sliding drawer or the slider, then I would definitely, after I touch this up, I would put some polyacrylic. And I knew this would be a problem, so you can do that as a preventative measure if you know you're going to be sliding a garbage can on it. But even like the tops of this, because this is where we're banging things around, this is another area where you can expect to have problems because of all the traffic over here. But this is the same deal. Like when you touch this up, what I will do on this is I'm going to put polyacrylic right here to give some extra protection. Some other common areas that you can have issues is underneath a sink. I don't think it was too bad over here, but we definitely have some dings down here because we're constantly pulling things out and moving that. So again, this could be a really good candidate to put some polyacrylic on top of the finish coat right there. Other than that, we don't have a lot of problems. This is the silverware drawer, which is another candidate to get a lot of traffic, holding up really well for us. But if there's to be nicks, they tend to be on like little corners like this on the most heavily used drawers. One other area where I noticed we had some chipping was just down here, and I just know that we're always sweeping out things here and mopping. But again, the good news is these things are so quickly and so easily touched up that the possibility of having a couple of minor dings and dents, in my opinion, should not be a reason to scare you away from painting your kitchen cabinets and getting this awesome, beautiful, bright kitchen. So hey guys, touching up those tiny little dings is super easy. Save the paint that you used from the paint job, or at least certainly know what it was. So if you have to get more, use a nice little micro roller like this. And it doesn't need to be any more complicated than taking this roller and literally going over it like that. Cover it up. Let it dry. Now we could let that dry for an hour, go on, do some other things around the house, leave this out, maybe cover it in plastic, come back and hit it again. Stains from the garbage can, but again, see how easy. Literally just go through, clean this area up. If you want to be more thorough, you can go and you can retake hardware off and things like that. But I just want to show you how easy this can be. Just going to clean this up. Got this little, oh, that wasn't even a chip. That was literally a food stain right there. So this is held up reasonably well. Again, it's always going to scrape off. A lot of this is actually coming off. That's just debris and dirt. I actually thought a lot of that was surface scuffs, but it is literally cleaning off. So we just have a couple of areas where we have some serious vibration, again, from this constantly hitting this and dragging off of it. Now I'm just going to slide this over the rug. Again, don't tell my wife for demonstration purposes, but probably best practice to use a drop cloth or something. But I'm not even like, could I go and scuff sand this and prime this? Sure. We absolutely did that, and you have to do that when you're painting the project. And you could do that on a repair, but for this, like literally, it's gonna, if you don't put anything else, it's gonna scuff anyways. Like I'm literally just gonna go like that. So say you have like company coming over for Christmas or Thanksgiving, and you just want to quickly make things look beautiful again. That's how easy this can be to touch up. I'm not even gonna take off that bumper hardware, tagged it a little bit. Wipe that away with my thumb. We have these little things here. I mean, it could be as simple as just taking a damp rag, making sure we get any dust off, dry it down. We could even take a little brush like that. If you don't have a little micro roller, don't want to go get one, and literally just do that. Here's what you need to understand though. We used really good products, really good applicators, and really good processes. Trust me, you can make a mess of a kitchen cabinet painting project, both in the way that it looks, how it holds up, and how it can be cleaned. If you don't properly prepare, you could have a lot of adhesion problems. And it won't just be a matter of a couple dings and nicks. You might have paint that is very easily scratched off or comes flaking or peeling off if you're not preparing your surface properly. If you're not using quality applicators, then you might have really bad finish quality, a lot of brush marks and streaks. You might have a lot of stippling. If you don't have good order of operations and good processes, you might get a lot of heavy edges and drips and runs and roller marks and rope marks and lap marks. So it's not to scare you, but just understand that you need to put the time and effort into making sure that you have really good products, really good tools, and really good processes. And that's why, hey, be subscribed to a channel like Braun's Painting Network. There are other great demonstrations on how to paint kitchen cabinets. We have some videos that we've done that show cabinets being painted in process. I am really looking forward to doing a full-blown demonstration video in the near future on Braun's Painting Network, so stay tuned for that. On a high level, from a preparation standpoint, the biggest things you got to know is you need to clean the cabinets really well. I promise you they are very filthy, very greasy, very dirty. Even if hard to see, you need to use some sort of grease cutting cleaner. You don't need to strip the entire finish off the old cabinets, but you definitely want to do some scuff sanding and wipe away the residual dust, and then use a very good bonding primer, and then make sure you're using a really good high quality paint. We love to use Benjamin Moore Advance in the satin sheen. Almost always. We have used semi-gloss sometimes, but I think that's a bit glossy for most people. We also have had success working with Sherwin-Williams Emerald. Their urethane trim enamel in the satin finish is also an outstanding product. Sherwin-Williams also has a product from the Gallery series, which we haven't worked with a lot. We are looking forward to doing some testing and incorporating that more often into the future, but that is a spray-only product. You're not really supposed to brush and roll that. So I think for a DIY person that doesn't have spray equipment or have the experience working with sprayers, I think that might be a tough project for the common DIY person to utilize. All right, guys, so overall, I am a huge fan of painting kitchen cabinets, not only because I obviously make money doing it, but also because I think it is a huge impact on kitchens. It is one of those cases where we really get people excited about coming home and being in their homes when we do that. So it makes us feel great about the work that we do. I love what we did in our own kitchen. My wife's ecstatic about it, and it's a huge game changer for our kitchen that was pretty sad looking before to being like, wow. And at a reasonable expense, because if we had to pull out all these cabinets and replace with new factory finished cabinets, all right, guys, so I hope this little tour of my kitchen cabinets has been helpful, informative as you do your research, and will help you make the decision on whether or not you should paint your kitchen cabinets. Thank you and happy painting.